I can't believe it's not butter.
I can't believe it's not butter.
What a shameful ripoff.
For over 35 years, video games have played a vital role throughout our history. From Pac-Man, to Mario, to Sonic the Hedgehog, the industry has managed to produce a legacy that runs deep into our culture. As you'll see in this series, the journey from point A to point B is not as clear-cut as one would expect. And along the way, there are many hardships, rivalries, and cutthroat industry tactics that shaped the industry into what it is today. But in order to tell this interesting saga, we must go back and start at the beginning. While Nolan Bushnell was busy with computer space, miles away another man by the name of Ralph Baer also had the idea of creating video games. But his idea involved creating a video game that could be hooked up to a television set at home. Ralph, who was a skilled engineer, spent a few years building the prototype of his idea. Once completed, he took the device and showed it to the people at Magnavox. Being impressed with what they saw, they not only bought Ralph's invention, but also filed patents on the technology. Now, Magnavox's actions played a pivotal role here, because they now had a patent on video game technology. So any company wanting to go into the business of making video games after 1972 had to pay royalties to Magnavox first. So Magnavox began mass producing the Odyssey, and as you can see, it's a console that's very crude in design. Now the unit comes with 2 controllers, 6 game cards, and is powered by 6 C batteries. So let's go ahead and fire this baby up. Just put the batteries in here, plug in the controllers in there, and connect one end of the video cable into the console, and the other end into the, wait a minute. What the fuck is this? Instead of getting a video cable that looks like this, or even this, we end up with this! What an ass biter. So if we look in the instruction manual, we find that Magnavox used 2 of the most obscure video connectors on the planet. Meaning if you lose just one of these pieces, you're out of Schitt's Creek without a paddle. And you just can't find these pieces at your local Radio Shack. Instead, you'll be wasting valuable time searching the universe for a used parts supply store. Yes, do you have a piece that hooks into this? You do? Excellent. You take American Express? So now that we've finally gotten our cord, let's go ahead and plug it into the TV. Now the unit also comes with 6 of these numbered game cards. And here's a fast fact. If you're thinking that each card carries its own game, you'd be wrong, because the main game is actually built into the Odyssey itself. And when a card is placed into the Odyssey, it's actually creating new command codes so that the game can end up playing differently than before. I should also mention that one of the few nice features about the Odyssey is that it automatically turns on once a card is placed into the machine. Pull it out, and the system turns off. Now by plugging in card number 1, we get to play a game called Table Tennis. And on the screen, we have 4 objects. A line that divides the screen, player 1, player 2, and the ball. Now to move your player around the screen, all you have to do is turn the small dials found in your controller. The dial on the left moves you back and forth. The dial on the right moves you up and down. So basically the goal here is to try to knock the ball into the other player's court in hopes that it falls off the edge of the screen.
Wow.
If this happens, you win the round. To bring the ball back into play, however, the loser must press the reset button on top of the controller. Now, even though this game is very simple to play, there are still some major downsides that can really cause a gamer to turn irate. First off, there's no point system whatsoever, so you must rely on the players to keep score. The second reason is that the game also has a few annoying glitches. Sometimes after hitting the ball, it slowly travels to the other side of the screen. And sometimes after knocking the ball off the screen, pressing the reset button does absolutely nothing. What a piece of shit! But the worst thing about this game is that both players can travel anywhere on the screen they want to. So how the hell can you even call this a game if you can do anything you want? There's no rules, no restrictions, or even a point system. Boy, this just flips my shit. Now, the majority of Odyssey games are intended for 2 players, but instead of grabbing a second player, I just installed an artificial intelligence device into my machine, called Hal. And he's been acting as my second player. So Hal, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, Dave.
So Hal, you having fun so far?
Yes, I am. Thank you for asking.
Alright, good. Well, let's continue. Now, the review could have easily ended right here. But Magnavox took steps to extend the life of the product, and they did this by adding in a whole shitload of accessories, like flashcards, dice, stickers, and about a dozen of these thin plastic overlays. Now, these overlays are vital to the Odyssey, and to use them, you just place them onto the TV screen. So now, instead of playing just a boring black and white game, we're now playing a black and white game with a stupid overlay on top of it. Let's just go ahead and move on. So after placing the second card in the machine, the game is altered so that the ball is the only object on the screen. And the first overlay that's used with the second card is called skiing. Now, this is pretty much a straightforward game that requires you to move along any desired path until you reach the end. And it doesn't matter if you take the short way, the long way, or even the middle way, because once you reach the end, the game is over. So that's it? What a fucking waste of time! Not only is this game terrible, but it's also a good example of how Magnavox might have been trying to market the Odyssey as more of a board game rather than a video game. If you look closely at this overlay, you'll see that it's just like playing a retarded version of Candyland. But instead of candy, we get a white blob of crap. Instead of Peppermint Forest, we get boring ass crack forest. And instead of Gumdrop Mountain, we get Green Turd Mountain. Ugh, what a poor substitute for Candyland greatness. Now, the second overlay to work with the second card is called Simon Says.
Because poor literacy is cool.
The goal here is to have one person pick from the stack of Simon Says cards and tell the other player what they should be highlighting with the white ball on the screen. Okay, Simon says nose. Okay, now Simon says foot. Alright, now Simon says penis? Penis? Okay, now Simon says masturbation hand. What the hell's up with these cards? Alright, now Simon says, I think we're done here. So skipping ahead to card number 3, we come to the hockey overlay. In this game, both players start off in the center of the screen and try their best to score a point by hitting the ball into the other player's goal. Well, this is just stupid, since the ball almost always flies off the screen after being hit. God, this game is terrible. Now, the last overlay for card 2 is called Analogic. This is a game that takes place in outer space. Now, each player starts off from either planet and tries their best to reach the other planet before the other player does. But the only way to move around the screen, however, is by using math equations. So where the hell's the fun in that? If I wanted a math lesson, I'd ask for one. Let's just go ahead and check out the fourth card. The first overlay we have is a cat and mouse chasing game. The goal here is to designate one of the squares off to the side as your mouse hole, and the player playing as the mouse must try to reach it before the other player playing as the cat can get to you. Now, if this sounds as stupid as I'm describing it, that's because it is, and it just plain sucks. Now the second overlay to work with the fourth card sucks even more, since you not only have to chase the other player around the haunted mansion, but this game requires tons of rules and tons of flashcards, making this game tons of shit. Is that both players can travel anywhere on the screen they want to. So how the hell can you even call this a game if you can do anything you want? There's no rules, no restrictions, or even a point system. This game requires tons of rules and tons of flashcards, making this game tons of shit. Moving on to the fifth card, we have a submarine overlay. The point in this game is to travel along the set path while avoiding the missiles that can be shot by the second player. Now this may sound pretty cool, but the game is so buggy that landing a successful shot is next to impossible. God, this game sucks. What an Asperger. So now we come to the last card. And the first overlay is called Roulette. The goal here is to place your bets on the roulette card, and bet on where you think the ball will land. Once the bets are in, just press the reset button, and the ball will fly in from the right hand of the screen. Wherever it lands will be the winning number. Oh, what the hell? So what number is that supposed to be? Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so the ball is in the number 9 slot. Well, this would have been nice if the number was actually on the card. Now the second game to work with card 6 is the States overlay, and it basically plays like the Simon Says game. Now as the first player picks from the stack of state cards, the second player highlights the state that's on the card. Okay, the first state we have is Ohio. Okay, the second state is New Hampshire. Boy, talk about a waste of time. Wouldn't it be a lot easier just to point to the states? Yeah, I thought so. This game just sucks. Well, that's the last game that was packaged with the Odyssey, but if those weren't enough to hold you over, Magnavox also made a few other games you could purchase separately. Later on, Magnavox released cards number 7 and number 8, and each of these came with overlays of their own. Magnavox also released cards 9 and 10, and these were only useful if you had purchased the special light rifle accessory that was sold separately from the Odyssey.
It's bucket or nothing!
Surprise your friends, amaze your family, annoy perfect strangers!
It's absolutely nothing.
Free for only $99.99.99!